Hello everyone. In the previous session, we have talked about different sources of big data. Also, we had a discussion on sampling and we have seen what are the different types of data elements. In today's session, we see about the visual data explorations. So, this visual data is very much important for any person to understand what this data is. So, this is mostly an informal way of representing the data. That is, when we see a visualization, maybe a chart or a graph, any normal person will be able to get a brief idea about what this particular data is about. If you just simply show a table with all the values there, a normal person will not be able to interpret it. Even the other people also will have to go through it in a detailed way so that they have to understand what are the data inside, which is inside that particular data. So visual data exploration is a most important thing which is adopted throughout the modeling process. There are multiple plots of graph which we use for this, like a bar chart, pie chart, scatter plots, histogram. All those things are used for this particular purpose. So we'll just see or identify what this particular chart is. So you don't have to go in detail or interpret the data in this, just you have to name what type of chart it is. So whether it is a pie chart, whether it is a column chart, bar chart, histogram, scatter plot, in that particular way. So identify this particular chart also, what type of chart it is or what type of graph it is. The next one. So as I mentioned, you don't have to interpret this data or you don't have to tell the value is higher there, value is lower there. Just you have to identify which type of chart it is. The next one. This you will be able to predict it properly. Okay. So moving on, when we talk about exploratory statistical analysis, there are multiple steps involved in it. The first one is to identify the missing value. So this missing value can occur because of various reasons. So there may be reasons, sometimes information can also be undisclosed. For example, a person doesn't want to disclose his data. If you see an example which is given here, a customer decided not to disclose his or her income because of privacy. So that may be one reason why the information is missing there. So here the information is undisclosed. Since missing data can also originate because of multiple reasons. It may be an error which can happen due to merging, or it can be an error when we transmit the data from one particular point to other point. It can be a typing mistakes in the name or any other data. So multiple reasons will be there for the values missing from this data. Okay, so there are different schemes to deal with this missing data. Mainly there are three types. The first option is to replace it. It is also called as impute. The other one is straight away deleting it, and the third one is keeping it. So in the case of replacing, what we usually do is we take the average or we take the median and we replace a particular value which is missing there. This is done only in a few cases when we are able to predict the data and the data should be in a particular range. The second option is deleting it. That is, if you have more number of variables which are missing in that, then the straightaway option is to delete it. And the last one is keeping the missing value. So you can keep the missing value as it is if it is meaningful. So we'll take a small example here. So here, if you tell about replacing the credit bureau scores are possible to replace in the sense we will be able to calculate the average or median to fill in the credit bureau score which is on the right side. To tell about delete, if you see the ID number 6, the person has mentioned only his age, but his income, marital status, or the credit bureau score is not mentioned. So it is possible to straight away delete that particular entry itself. And to keep the values, for example, we can see the ID number 9 where the income is not mentioned there. So in that particular case, It may be because that person doesn't want to disclose his income, so can keep that particular value as it is. So these are the three ways to deal with missing values: replace, delete, or keep. After missing values, the next one is outlier detection treatment. So outliers are something like it is an extreme observation that is not similar to the rest of the population. That is, there may be some values which are located outside the particular range which doesn't fall under any of this. So there are different types of outliers. So actually the two types are valid observation and invalid observation. So valid observation in the sense we take an example of a salary of a particular boss or a senior employee is $1 million. So it means that the other employees are having their salary in a particular range, whereas the salary of the boss is somewhat beyond the range, or it is dissimilar to the rest of the population. So this is something called as a valid observation. This can happen in most of the cases. The second one is invalid observation. We take an example of age is 300, which is not practically possible. So this means that it is invalid. The particular observation or the particular outlier value is invalid, which is not possible at all. So we see a small example here. So here if you see, this particular value is an outlier which is not falling under any of this population. This is an outlier value. Similar way, this is also an outlier value. So I will take the pointer here. So this is an outlier value which doesn't fall under any of this particular population. In the same way, this is also an outlier value which doesn't fall under any of the population. So there are various graphical tools that are used for detecting outliers. We use tools like histogram, we use something like box plots. Also we use a calculation of z-score. So all this in detail we will see in the coming sessions. There are some analytical techniques which we use for this, that is decision trees or neural networks or support vector machine. These are fairly robust with respect to outliers. And there are other techniques which are sensitive to outliers like linear regression or a logistic regression, and there are various other schemes also to deal with outliers. So once we are dealt with the outlier, the next one is standardizing the data. So this is a pre-processing activity mainly to standardize all the variables to a similar range. The standardization procedure can be done by using min-max standardization, can be Z-code standardization or decimal scaling. So this, as I told, it's a pre-processing activity mainly to standardize or scale the variables to a similar range. So after standardization, next we have categorization of data. So this categorization can be done for various reasons. There are multiple categorizations like course classification, classing, grouping, binning, etc. And various methods also can be used for categorization. Out of that, the very two basic methods are equal interval binning and equal frequency binning. So these are the very basic method which is used for categorization. Once the categorization is done, we go for the variable selection. So whenever we do some analytical model exercise, what happens is we get a lot of data there. In that lot of data, there are multiple variables, huge number of variables which are there. But out of this, there will be only a few variables which actually is required for the prediction of the target variable. So in this variable selection, what we do is we identify those variables which are very particular and which are very much required for this target prediction of the target variable. So that process is called as variable selection, to select only the specific variables which are required from the large number of variable set. And the last set of operation what we do is called as a segmentation. So the segmentation, most of the time it is done well before the analytical modeling starts. So there may be multiple reasons for segmentation. The first reason may be it could be strategic. For example, the banking organization might adopt some special strategies for a specific set of customers. So this segmentation can be done because of a strategic reason, or it can be because of an operational viewpoint. If you take the same example of banking, there may be new customers who might join in. For the new customers, there may be separate models which the bank use, or the separate segments or separate particular campaigns which the banking use. So segmentation could also be needed to take into significant variable interactions. So in this case, what happens is there may be a one particular variable that strongly interact with other variables. So one variable might be related or interacting with multiple other variables, which might be sensible to the segment. So to in that particular case, we have to do a segmentation, and the segmentation is usually done by the business experts using their knowledge as well as the experience expertise. And for this, we might be using multiple things like addition trees, k-means, and self-organizing maps, and so on.